Hey guys. Okay, so because this is going to be a rather in-depth video covering a very important topic, I decided to write everything down. And I'm just going to read what I wrote because I was afraid I would forget something, leave something out, and of course, everybody knows by now I stutter pretty badly. So if I just read what I wrote down, we should get through this relatively stress-free. Anyway, here we go. Human rights activists beware. COINTELPRO 2.0 is here. During the civil rights era, the FBI waged a massive attack on civil rights activists. This attack was referred to as COINTELPRO, short for Counterintelligence Program. This method of warfare was similar to Zersetzung, the attack used by the Stasi against anti-communists back in East Germany. And to those watching this video now, I highly recommend you do research on Zersetzung. That is Zersetzung. In short, this type of attack, that being Zersetzung, because COINTELPRO it's so similar. I mean, these attacks are so similar. It was a PSYOP, psychological warfare, used to destroy targeted individuals on every level, body, mind, and soul. But above all else, it was meant to discredit the targets and thus end whatever influence they might have had. Worse, it was meant to divide allies and prevent any future alliances between potential allies. The aspect of discrediting a target was done by entrapment, setups, character assassination, false accusations, and false mental health diagnosis. In fact, when the targets spoke out about what was happening to them, they were oftentimes falsely diagnosed with mental illness and discredited in that manner. Some were even institutionalized. The word Zersetzung means decomposition, or total destruction. Of course, there was more to it than defamation and character assassination. It's called psychological warfare for a reason. Targets were followed, tracked, and spied on, oftentimes by people in their community or even their own friends and family. Yes, in many cases the Stasi went to the family of the target, lied to them about the target, and recruited them to monitor the target, who was said to be a potential threat. In this manner, even the target's own family would watch him or her and send information to the Stasi, including location and other identifying information that would better help this criminal organization keep tabs on the target. And by identifying information, I mean what the target is wearing and so on. Anything that helps them keep track of him and locate him or her. The Stasi would also attempt to drive the target to a mental breakdown, or at least to the point where the target began speaking out about what was happening to him or her, and thus could be deemed mentally ill and discredited in that manner when the accusations made by the target were written off as delusion, paranoia, or worse. So what else was happening? Well, first of all, the criminals wanted the target to know that he or she was being followed. They made it known to the target that he was under some form of surveillance, but they never explained what was taking place, never informed him or her of the accusations made against him, and thus never allowed him a defense. But this happened under communism. You'd think that such a thing would be impossible here in America, where our Constitution grants us certain protections and rights, including the right to a public defense for those who have been accused of a crime, and it also forbids extrajudicial punishment against American citizens who haven't been charged with a crime. Sadly, it does happen here. But I digress. The target's home would be broken into, and personal belongings might be tampered with or moved around, maybe a window left open for the target to find. This was done to let the target know that someone was there, to create fear, anxiety, paranoia, a constant state of dis-ease, as no one likes to be watched 24/7 as if under a microscope, hunted like an animal. This triggers primal instinct to fight or to flee, right? Fight or flight. But the target can't do either. He can't flee, as they will follow. And one person can't fight off a mob that has power, resources, and gear that the target lacks. Making matters worse, even his or her own home would be invaded. There was no safe place to take shelter. Anyone who understands basic psychology knows that this factor alone will begin to break the target down mentally. Imagine a soldier on a battlefield. Bombs are falling. The enemy is firing in all directions. Instinct is to find shelter. Even a tiny foxhole to duck into might bring some psychological relief. Now imagine that there are no foxholes, no caves, no bunkers. The soldier is out in the open, completely exposed. 24/7, day and night, he must exist this way for years on end. This will take a toll on his mental health. And that, of course, is added to the horrors of war that already exist without that extra, that extra bonus. And then there's the aspect of being conquered. The inability to fight back or to do anything to defend oneself or one's family. This too will drive the victim mad, and even to eventual violence against the perpetrators and random people if he just starts lashing out. Zersetzung was this and worse, and so was COINTELPRO. During the Civil Rights era, the FBI waged this type of warfare against civil rights activists. I suggest reading up on the Church Committee, here in quote, U.S. Senate Select Committee to Study Governmental Operations with Respect to Intelligence Activities. Okay, there's a book on this, and you can also watch the Frank Church hearings on YouTube. So what happened? Well, the FBI infiltrated civil rights groups, attempted to tear them apart from within, destroy alliances, and discredit, aka neutralize, individual activists who seemed to have influence and thus were deemed a threat to the current order. To do this, the FBI used tactics such as illegal surveillance, entrapment, setups, character assassination, defamation, and false accusations against human rights activists, and even drove at least one woman to suicide. Now, I'm not saying that the FBI is involved in this new wave of COINTELPRO-style attacks, or Zersetzung-style attacks. In fact, at one point I actually called them for help, and the person I spoke to was relatively nice. It went okay. Truth is, I don't know who's doing it this time. I don't know who's waging this current attack on American citizens. The irony is that, at least for me, many of the more prominent organized stalkers, or as we call them today, we call them organized stalkers, they appear to be Russian. While the perpetrators, or the common lackeys, come from all groups, the people who appear to have a bit more power seem to have Russian accents. Well, Russian or Ukrainian, I can't tell the difference between the Russian and Ukrainian accents. Although some of them do have German last names, some of them have Russian last names too, but some of them do have German last names, or German Jewish. Again, sometimes it's hard to tell. Many do appear to be Eastern European. We know that during the Civil Rights era, the FBI used fear of communism and of Russia in general to justify their attack on civil rights activists. Yet in their attacks, in attacks, waged by the FBI against civil rights activists, they used methods taken right out of the communist playbook. This is what makes it so hard to know who's waging this type of warfare on American citizens today. Is it the FBI again, or has Russia finally succeeded at conquering the US? Due to the massive scale of this program, the program we call organized stalking, whoever is doing this appears to have full control over the United States, our businesses, organizations, law enforcement, and government. And this began a long time ago. For me, this appears to have started in 2007 or 2008. While I didn't know about organized stalking back then, I knew that I was being followed and people were coming to my home. I knew that people were taking pictures of me and flashing their camera at me, and people kept showing up at our door, just random people, different groups, different times, for weeks on end, and they would say nothing. They would smile and laugh and gawk, and their excuse for being there was always the same: sorry, wrong apartment. I thought it started with a fight online I had with two people, a man and a woman. Once it became clear how massive a campaign this was, I figured that the psychopaths I had it out with online got a bunch of their Nazi buddies involved, because the woman ended up being on some Nazi websites. Although, too, she did say she was in the military, so I wondered if maybe the Nazis had somehow infiltrated the military. and that she somehow set them against me. We know that after World War II, the CIA brought Nazi scientists to the United States to continue their experiments here. And it wasn't just technology they were developing. Okay, they were working on methods of mind control and psychological warfare, and worse. Watch my video called MK Ultra, Manchurian Candidates, and Targeted Individuals for more information on that. And folks, I'm going to say this again later, but we're all on lockdown right now. You have enough time to watch these videos. Please educate yourselves. Anyway, I didn't learn about organized stalking until 2018. Since then, we've gone through 3 presidents, Bush, Obama, and Trump. And none of them have stopped this. Though it does seem telling that this began, at least for me, not too long after Bush signed the wrongfully named Patriot Act into existence. Although I've heard of people who have complained about this. I know of one guy, and he said this seemed to start for him during the Civil Rights era. He was an activist in the Civil Rights era. He said this started for him then, it stopped for a while, and then it started up again. So let's assume for a moment that it really is a foreign government attacking American citizens on U.S. soil. If that is the case, why haven't our own intelligence agencies warned us about this? Right? We know that the FBI has warned about Russian interference in our elections and other attempts to agitate and provoke American citizens against each other. Okay, but they, the FBI, have not warned people about Zersetzung, or the Zersetzung-style attacks that communists that is typical among communism, whether it's in actual Russia or whether it was back in East Germany when communism took over, right? Maybe they don't want to warn people because they did the same thing with COINTELPRO. I don't know, but they haven't warned people to be careful when they answer job ads online, for example. Or to be cautious when getting involved in a campaign that involves interacting with unwitting individuals in a manner that seems strange. They have not warned people that they might be used against their fellow Americans in order to help terrorize and ultimately destroy innocent people. Instead, our own intelligence agencies have jumped on the same mental illness bandwagon that the Stasi did back in East Germany, labeling with mental illness anyone who speaks about this topic or complains that he or she is under some type of stalking campaign that involves what appears to be psychological warfare tactics. Right. So here's the thing. Denying one's involvement in a crime does not imply guilt, obviously. But denying that the crime even exists does imply guilt if the people denying the existence of the crime know damn well that it does, in fact, exist. All of the major intelligence agencies know what this is. To deny involvement in it does not imply guilt. To deny its existence does. Now, to be fair, I am unaware of any attempts made by our own intelligence to deny that this type of warfare is real. But their silence on the matter, along with their eagerness to label as mentally ill anyone who speaks up about such, is rather curious, at least in my opinion. That said, current human rights activists must learn all they can about this topic and take extra care to avoid being used against their own allies or potential allies. A while back, I put out a public safety notice regarding organized stalking. I'll link to that video and a few others in the description below. As for the rest of this video, I will list a few warning signs to look out for. Honestly, I shouldn't have to put this information out there. This is the job of our intelligence agencies. They're the ones who should be putting this information out there. But here we go. When taking a job or joining a group, be careful when asked to engage with individuals who are unwitting, unwilling, or are simply unaware of what is taking place. Use caution when asked to partake in any activity that involves following or tracking other individuals. And I'm sorry you're hearing wind blowing outside. It's pretty windy, but I need to have the window open right now because it's muggy in here. Okay. Especially if you're given instructions on how to interact with an individual, told exactly what to say, what gestures to make, possibly even what to wear as you interact with the person in question. These instructions might be given in advance or live via an earpiece or text message. I've seen perpetrators look back and forth at their phone as they make comments and gestures to their target. Modern technology, along with social media, has made it easier for crimes such as this to be carried out, as large numbers of people can be gathered in one place at the same time and sent live instructions on how to interact with a specific person. It also makes tracking people easier, which, of course, in all of my videos about Big Brother and surveillance states, please watch them and understand what's coming. Sadly, many of the people who go along with this type of activity will be unaware of what they're involved in. Some might even be led to believe that they're doing a good thing by keeping an eye on someone they have been told is a potential threat. Sadly, many never question the actions they're told to take against the supposed threat. Most never think to themselves, you know what? If we're being asked to say and do to this person, if what we're being asked to say and do to this person doesn't make sense, and if it seems like it actually might be counterproductive, and because instead of minimizing the threat, it seems as if it's meant to provoke the target. Why are we being asked to do this? Okay, it's a shame that people don't stop and ask themselves this question. Why am I being asked to do this? If the purpose is meant to minimize a threat, why does it seem like this is meant to provoke? People just go along with whatever an authority figure tells them, and they need to stop doing that. That's the purpose of this video, to make you aware of what is taking place, so that you don't end up going along with that campaign of terror and destruction against innocent people. Okay, this is to all of you, whoever you are, whoever's watching to this, and spread the word, please. Okay, link this video, send it to your friends, send it to people you know. Okay, remember, even innocent people are being labeled terrorists and added to government watch lists. All right, it's been going on for a while now, and it's getting a lot worse now. Within the last few days, that has been taken up a few thousand levels, hasn't it? Just because you heard that someone is a bad seed doesn't make it true. Each and every human rights activist can be added to one of these lists, and after that, they can have the masses set against them by whatever organization is running this program. That said, if you have ever been asked to engage in any of the following activities, you might have unwittingly been involved in the Zersetzung campaign or COINTELPRO style campaign against a targeted individual. If that is the case, please speak up. Also, if you know someone that this was directed at, please inform them of what has taken place, what people were asked to say and do to or around him or her, the reason given, and of course, the people giving the orders. Though understand, the people giving the orders might claim to be of a group that they are not actually of. Be careful, misdirection is used, all right? And there will also be false accusations against innocent people, all right? Actual targets will be accused of being perpetrators, and perpetrators will pretend to be targets. So be very careful if someone says, hey, this person said this and this person said that. All right, if you can, whoever is being accused of anything, try to speak to that person. Get that person's side. All right, I found out the one who is not allowed a defense is usually innocent. That's just my opinion. So here are some of the things you should look out for. Probably not even join in on. Following and tracking of another person, right? And sending information about the target's location, movements, and identifying factors to a superior. Identifying factors can be anything, what the person is wearing, what direction the person is going in, and so on. Whatever makes it easier to identify him or her. Making certain comments or gestures to or around the target. I'll wait till the phone's... Maybe I'll just talk over it. It didn't ring all day, and then it started as soon as... Started now. Let me start this again. Making certain comments or gestures to or around the target, wearing a specific color or item of clothing, or acting out a skit alone or in a group, when or near the target. The comments perpetrators are told to make usually reference something that has taken place in the target's personal and private life, and are meant to let the target know that he or she is being surveilled 24/7 and even being watched in the privacy of his or her own home. All right, though many of the perpetrators are unaware of the meaning behind what they're told to say. Some might even think this is a stupid game or a joke. It isn't. All right, you might be told to go up to someone and say something that seems to make no sense. Maybe mention a few food items and then say, "Don't trip." Well, what you don't understand is the food items you were told to mention are exactly what the target had for breakfast that morning, and soon after that, the target was leaving his home and tripped. So, and I mean by leaving his home, I mean he hadn't walked out the door yet. It happened in his home. Okay, now coincidences happen, but when comments like this happen all the time, a person is meant to be paranoid, to become paranoid, and it's because it's showing them that they can be seen even in their own home. All right, and some of the other things, those are the less obvious, activities that perpetrators are told to engage in, but some are very obvious. Okay, entering a person's home without their permission, moving things around, tampering with food, opening a window, turning a clock back. Obviously, you know that if you're asked to do something like this, the good guys are not asking you to do that. Okay, it doesn't take a lot of common sense to understand that. Okay, you're trying to drive someone crazy. Okay, setting up illegal surveillance in the target's home, tampering with mail, watching the target in private, meaning in a space where he or she should have a reasonable expectation of privacy, intentional provocation of a person, attempts to set someone up or provoke them into a negative response, just to use that response against them at a later date, okay? So provoke, report is what they do. Okay, at that point, that isn't an attempt to catch a real bad guy, but instead to create one, all right, to set someone up. Surveillance roleplay? Folks, it isn't legitimate if you're engaging with people who don't want to play and who have no clue what is happening to them or why people are following them. That's sick. That's stalking. It's perverse. I don't care how powerful the people are who recruit you to do this. It is wrong. It is sick. And we need you to be the resistance here. We need a huge resistance. Don't be part of the masses who go along with any evil simply because an authority figure told them that it's okay. Okay, these are just a few of the tactics used by organized stalkers. And many of the people who engage in these activities aren't even aware that they're involved in the slow, painful destruction of other human beings. It isn't just one action, but everything together, over time, that eventually wears down and ultimately destroys the targeted individuals, and even entire groups of people. A group that has been infiltrated by parasites who engage in this type of warfare will be destroyed from within. This undermines trust among group members and over time destroys alliances. Many unwitting people have been turned against their own allies or potential allies. Now you know. And once you know, you're no longer an innocent bystander. Those who are made aware of this crime can no longer claim innocence due to ignorance if they take part in it.